Parenting is one of the best jobs in the world, but also one of the absolute hardest. We've all been there, wishing the day away and wishing it was bedtime because you are just needing a minute to yourself, and as soon as the kids are in bed you just spend the next few hours looking at pictures of their sweet little faces on your phone because you miss the crap out of them. I don't think anything can quite prepare you for how much your life adjusts when you have a baby. Everything you did before becomes such a blur and you find yourself just wondering, what the hell did I do with all that spare time? Last year I welcomed my second child into the world and things have now ramped up to the next level once more. I spend 80% of my day outnumbered, as do many of us, and it has its challenges, and I won't lie, there are many days where I just wish I could just run away and have a moment on my own. My son is now 9 months old, and I realised the other day that there are a lot of things that I have started doing that have helped make things a bit less chaotic, so I thought I would just share some of those with you today. If you are about to become a parent to a second child and you are thinking, how am I going to cope? These are some things that I do to make the day slightly easier. The first thing that came into play for me pretty early on was a baby carrier. You can put the baby in the carrier, strap them in, and you can just walk around, they'll just sit on your chest. Great, because when you've got one child that is crying, it's fine, you can just sit down with them. When you've got a baby and a very demanding toddler, not quite as easy to do that. So the baby carrier for me has definitely saved some stressful times. Trying to cook dinner, trying to do something with your toddler, putting the baby in there so that they feel comfortable and safe with you means you've got both hands free, you can walk around, you can still do things. So if you haven't got one of these already, I would highly recommend. There is a lot available secondhand, vintage, Facebook Marketplace. You don't have to pay through the roof for this sort of thing. It has really saved me a lot of time. Be organised. It's hard in the early days because you're tired, and as soon as they're asleep you just want to sit down. However, being organised during this time, even if it's just for half an hour, makes the next day so much smoother. I'm talking making packed lunches, so you haven't got to spend time the next day making lunch. If the baby is crying and then you've got to go and make lunch, it makes it a stressful situation. If lunches are already made, you can grab them from the fridge. Snack packs, grab them. Even getting out clothes the night before and laying them out, it seems ridiculous because it's not that much time. It just makes the day a lot smoother. Even myself, I used to get my clothes, my toothbrush, take them downstairs, and then I could just get ready downstairs. Otherwise, I was finding I wasn't even brushing my teeth some days till like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm sure we've all been there. Doing little things like that I think tomorrow's me is going to be very grateful that I've already done this. It is a lifesaver, and you don't have to spend hours and hours doing all sorts of intricate things, but making a quick sandwich and cutting up some fruit and veg or whatever for lunch took like 5-10 minutes in the evening. But the next day, if I've got 2 kids and I've got to do that, it can be quite stressful. So just trying to be organised in areas where you can be, it will help you. And on the same theme, planning ahead for the next day for the older child. So like I say, my daughter is 3. I used to plan sort of what toys we were going to be playing with the next day so that I could just sort of have them ready to grab when I needed them the most. So we do have toys laid out in our living room that she can just go and play with, but then we also have a lot stored away. And there were times like if I had to feed Alfie or some things you have to do during the day, I would just get them out and put them on the floor, and immediately she would go and play with them and sort of be distracted by them. I also made sure I bought a few like new cheap toys like colouring books and things like that just to keep her busy, and again wouldn't get them out until it was a moment when I really actually needed them. And another thing we do in this house is rotate toys as well, so I do keep some stored away and then I'll flip them round every so often, so I'll put some back away and then get new ones out. Some days in the early days I found that we got severe cabin fever because it's not as easy just to go out anymore. And there's a lot of things you have to sort of think about in terms of like routine, like when are they going to need feeding, they're going to need to go to sleep. There's just so much more that you have to factor into your day. And it does mean that some days you just find yourself on the sofa in your pyjamas, and before you know it, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you've done nothing. For a total mood change, try and go outside. Even if it's just half an hour, it does make so much difference to everybody. There were times when I noticed that my daughter was getting quite like fed up, I guess, of being inside, and just going outside for that short amount of time really does change everybody's mood. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to go to like amazing places and spend loads of money. Just walk around. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but just getting out in the fresh air, go to a local park if you can, just really does switch up the mood. But on the flip side of that, do not get mum guilt if you cannot do that, because there are many days where I did not manage to do that because it's so hard, and you get it in your head that you're failing because you haven't managed to go outside that day, you haven't given them enough attention or whatever. It's not always going to be like this, and realistically it's such a short period of time before things do start to get easier again, and it's not as hard to go out of the house, and you don't have to take quite so much stuff with you. Like I said, Alfie's 9 months now, and it's getting a little bit easier just to be able to go out of the house. He naps less, he has less milk, we can just take some snacks with us if we need to. It is really hard not to have mum guilt, I know that, because I do. You just have to keep reminding yourself that it's not always going to be like this, and just try and ditch the mum guilt. I found it quite hard in the early days because you suddenly give all your attention to the older child, and then the baby comes and obviously have to give a lot of your attention to the baby. Things I found to help this are to get the older child or children involved as much as you can if they're interested. Emmy was and wasn't. She always wanted to hold Alfie when he was a baby, and there were times when I'd be like, oh, no, not now. After a while I was like, I probably should stop doing that because she was just interested at the end of the day. So I really tried to just say okay and let her, even if it wasn't that convenient, because she would only want to hold him for a couple of seconds. Asking them to like get you things if you're changing nappies or help you change the nappy, get them to hold the milk bottle if you're feeding. It just makes them feel like a little bit more involved. And I know I've just said don't have mum guilt, but it does take away the mum guilt quite a bit, because it just means you're managing to give both of the children attention and get them involved. We live quite far away from the majority of our family, so this is not really something we were able to do quite so much, but if you have family around, absolutely 100% ask for help whenever you can. If people are offering to come and help or get things for you from the shop or take your eldest child out for even an hour, it makes such a difference just to have a bit of time. Or, you know, like I say, we don't get that, but sometimes, you know, grandparents come down, they do help occasionally when they are able to, and my God, it makes so much difference, you know. It really does make so much difference, especially if the eldest child is gone for a while, because it means you get the bit more of like personal bonding time with the baby that you haven't necessarily maybe had so much this time around. If someone offers to help with both of them, great, because it means you can rest, but don't feel like bad accepting help or asking for help, because we all need help. You don't have to go solo and do this thing on your own. Emmy goes to preschool 3 days a week now. You know, I obviously miss her being here, but it does just give me time to sort of recoup a little bit, get more things done, have a little bit more bonding time with Alfie. So if you can get the help, ask for the help. Make time for the eldest child one-on-one. It's important that you still try and do things like this because their world has changed immensely. And this is one of the areas I always used to feel really bad guilt for, because you've gone from spending like all your time with this one child, like I said before, to suddenly you've been snatched away and the baby takes up so much of your time, especially in the early days. At the weekends, if there's like two parents or you've got grandparents, like I said, try and just do something that's a bit more one-on-one with the eldest child. Again, it doesn't have to be something that's spending loads of money. You can just go to the park, go and kick a ball somewhere. We live near the seaside, so on Saturday I took Emmy to the beach and we just had an hour down there. We had an ice cream and a play in the sand, and it just means you get that more connection time back again, get that one-on-one time, you get that personal connection with them, and they get you all to themselves, which I feel like is really important. And it just makes you feel a little bit less guilty in the times where you are quite consumed by the baby. This can be hard when there isn't much time in the day, but You really have got to try and make time for yourself at some point of the day. I obviously know time is lacking in the day, especially during the day, but you don't also get that much time at night time because you have to try and get a good night's sleep. But trying to do something for yourself, and that doesn't mean cleaning the house, but you know, have a bath, relax, try and do something that old you would have done, I guess. Otherwise you just get so like frazzled and do lose yourself in the early days of parenting, I think. But if you can try and grab some of it back every now and then, it does make you feel slightly better. Exercise is a great way of doing that because you're doing something good for yourself, and in return that does make you feel good as well. But also, if you don't want to exercise, don't. Just do something that makes you feel slightly more like you. This last one is more of like a mental thing, so daily reminders and daily intentions. This might not be your bag, but I found this really helped me. So obviously, even now, like Alfie's 9 months, I have very stressful days now. But the early weeks and months, if they're feeding in the night still, you're freaking tired. Everywhere you look, somebody wants a piece of you. The house is a mess. You've just had a baby. You don't feel like yourself. You haven't got time to brush your teeth. And oh my God, it takes its toll so much. I found in those days I would literally just grab crap to eat because who's got time to eat healthy? Who's got time to exercise? But making the daily intentions to try and eat healthy and try and do a tiny bit of exercise, even if it is just a walk, like I said, you can tie it in with the children. Where I said about being organised, make yourself some nice healthy lunch for the next day, because if it's maize you will eat it, otherwise I would just have had like toast. And those things do make you feel good in the long run. You might just want to grab a chocolate bar, but it's not going to make you feel better. Daily reminders to yourself that it's not always going to be this hard. Obviously, the parenting journey changes as time goes on. Some areas become easier, other areas become harder, but I would say the early years are physically demanding on your body and you don't get a second to yourself. And for me, it has really helped me trying to be mindful of that it's not always this way. It doesn't always help in the moment, don't get me wrong, but when you're feeling extremely stressed out, you just have to try and remember they're not always going to be this little. It's not always going to be this hard. Just embrace what it is now and accept it for what it is, and it does make it a bit easier. I found it made it easier for me. Like I said, it might not be your bag, but that's what helped me. So those are just some of the things that I have done to make the day slightly easier. You might think it's all a load of crap, but that's just my personal opinion. Things that I have done that saved my bacon. And there probably is loads more that I do. If there's anything else that you have done that made your day slightly easier with children, please comment down below and leave them as ideas for other people. And thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.